welcome to another money space with me, Kalu Aja. Of course, on our space, we're talking money, the economy, and finance. We're here every Sunday, 7 p.m. West African time, where we're talking about these great topics, right? We're on YouTube, we are on Twitter, X, and of course, we appreciate you guys joining in today. I'm traveling, so I'm doing this like on the move, but yeah, we're going to get this information out. If you're on YouTube, please join. I shared the YouTube link just before we started because I've got lots of great visuals I want to share with you guys as we go along. We're going to talk really about the fuel subsidy, the PMS subsidy, what it is, should we bring it back? If you've been following the news, of course, you would have seen the call by one of the main contestants in the 2027 presidential race, Atiku Abubakar, say that he wants the PMS subsidy to come back. But even before he's just the most high profile person to have said he wants the PMS subsidy to come back. Before he even said it himself, lots of folks, others, your family, lots of folks you know and your office are saying, listen, is this fuel subsidy, was it a good decision? Should we bring it back and all that? That's what the question in Nigeria has been, I think, for a while now. Should we be able to bring this back because folks are seeing that they are not seeing the effects of this subsidy? That's really what's going on. So we said let's take, as usual, a data-based view of this and ask those real questions. What we do here is we give you the data, so that way you have the real picture, and then you're able to then determine at the end if yes, fuel subsidy removal was a no, or if no, it was a bad idea, and of course you take it back. So I'm going to try to share the slides on Twitter. Like I said, if you can follow on social media, YouTube, that would be fantastic. If you cannot, listen in, ask your questions at the end, and let's have a discussion, right? So the topic is set for us. Should we bring back fuel subsidy? Now, there are two schools of thought. The folks that will tell you, hey, let's bring back fuel subsidy, are essentially telling you that, hey, costs have gone up, that the costs in Nigeria have gone up and we haven't seen the benefits. The folks that are for fuel subsidy staying back are basically saying, listen, we cannot go back to fuel subsidy in Nigeria. It's just too expensive. So it's both of them are speaking across each other. And I think we're asking the wrong questions. I don't think the real question is if fuel subsidy, we should go back to the fuel subsidy regime. Just for full disclosure, I myself do not believe that we should go back to bringing back the fuel subsidy. But those that want us to go back have a point, and we're going to see their point as we go along. I don't think that the debate is about fuel subsidy, right? If you call up a guy on a Nigerian street, if you go to a Nigerian street and you ask a Nigerian, should fuel subsidy, what is fuel subsidy? Explain to me what fuel subsidy is. Give it to me. I doubt you would get an answer that is accurate in terms of the data and in terms of the economic intent of that policy. You will struggle to find many Nigerians that understand what fuel subsidy actually means. But you will not struggle to find many Nigerians that understand that their costs have gone up, and that the price of PMS has gone up, and that they are connecting the price of PMS going up to their cost of living going up. You will not struggle to find Nigerians tell you that. And I think that's where the communication gap, I think, is happening. If you look at the slide I just shared, I asked a question on social media, and I said, do you want the subsidy on PMS to return? This is not a scientific poll, right? About 2,047 people voted. 58% said they want subsidy to come back. 58%. Only 33% were definite to say subsidy should not come back. Only 33%, only a quarter, 33%, right? We had about 9% undecided. Again, it's not a scientific poll. And again, most of the folks that would vote here are maybe folks that follow me and all that kind of stuff. But even those that follow me know that I support the subsidy going, and we're going to get to that. There's still a 58% number of people, of the respondents on this poll, say they want the PMS subsidy to come back. Again, let me say it again. If you ask these folks that have voted, what is the economics of PMS subsidy? What is actually going on? What are we trying to achieve? On the economic front, you will struggle to hear anyone actually tell you, oh, this is what we are against, right? And this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve in terms of the macroeconomics. You will struggle to find that. But again, you will not struggle, I say it again, to find people that will tell you, listen, my cost of living was better before subsidy was removed. And now subsidy has been removed and my cost of living has gone up. It hasn't reduced. You won't find folks that would argue with you on that. So let's go into this first slide that I have. Let's make the argument for why subsidy should not come back. And you see the point I'm making. This is the chart of how much Nigeria spent on fuel subsidies from 2016 to 2023. Why am I picking those years? Because in the past, remember when we had the previous government wanted to take away fuel subsidy. We're talking about the government of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. We wanted to take away fuel subsidies, and there was a push to say we should keep the subsidies. But from 2016, we had subsidies applied fully. The Buhari administration applied subsidies fully across the board. So we can go back there and look at the total cost of those subsidies. You can see from 2016, we were doing about 240 billion in subsidies. If you go to 2022, the subsidies became 4 trillion. From 240 billion in 2016 to 4 trillion in 2022. So what happened? Did the number of people driving cars in Nigeria go up? Did the price of PMS go up? What happened that we go from 240 billion to 4.4 trillion? As a matter of fact, in 2023, when we stopped the subsidy till May, we were already at 3.6 trillion. So it makes no sense. You can clearly see that it's either corruption or there's mismanagement or funds just going to something else but not subsidy. But you can't go from 240 billion, then 2018 we're at 1 trillion. Then 2019 we went down to 500 billion. 2020 864 billion. 2021 1.43 billion. As elections approach, guys, we went to about 4.4 trillion. Doesn't make any sense, right? So this is exhibit number 1 for the folks that will tell you that, listen, we can't go back to subsidies. Subsidy in Nigeria has become a bad word. I don't think the issue is subsidies. The issue is how Nigeria has implemented this subsidy. Everywhere you go to in the world, there are subsidies for energy. In America, farmers are given subsidized diesel because farmers produce food and food is national security. But in Nigeria's case, it's the way we have applied the subsidy, in my view, that has caused subsidy to have this bad connotation. I don't think it is the subsidy per se, but how Nigeria has applied it. So let's go further. And you start again, we are still making the case for why subsidy should go away. 4.4 trillion from 240 billion is a huge jump that you struggle to sort of explain what it is. But this slide in particular is really the slide that tells you why we should not go back to having subsidies. This is the slide. From 2016 to 2023, the amount of funds that were spent to subsidize PMS, which is petrol, maybe diesel, all that, PMS subsidy, right? 13 trillion. So we spent from 2016 to 2023, 13 trillion to subsidize PMS. Health and education combined in the same period, we spent give or take 10 trillion to 12.5 trillion. So in Nigeria, we spent more to subsidize PMS than health and education combined. You cannot argue against this chart. There is no government on earth that can go to its people and tell its people that they want to subsidize the imports. Remember, these are imports. The PMS back then was imported. There was no Dangote refinery. That you want to subsidize more imports of PMS than health and education combined. You can't make that argument. And I think this is the strongest argument that you would hear from folks that say we cannot simply go back to subsidizing PMS. You simply can't. And at the very end, I have a closing chart I'm going to show you guys that's just going to bring this to fore why we cannot play with health and education. It's going to be my last slide. So hang out to the last slide and I'll show you why we shouldn't really play with health and education. But for now, you can't make the case. And that Nigeria did that was maladministration. That Nigeria took more money and subsidized PMS imports than health and education. That was maladministration. So when you bring this chart up, it's difficult for anyone to argue with you that we should go back to PMS subsidies. Is Mr. Atiku saying that we should go back to spending more on subsidies, importing PMS, or even subsidizing Dangote than health and education? Maybe that's not what he's saying, but he's got to clarify. And also the folks that also want to go back to subsidy also have to clarify. Again, we're being fair and balanced here. We're saying these are what the numbers are showing us, that we spend too much on importing PMS and subsidizing it than we spent on health and education. Now, let's go to the other argument that the folks that support the removal of subsidy would show you. Number one, they will tell you that, listen, we spent more on PMS than we spent on health and education. The second thing they will show you is that Nigeria is making more money. When I mean Nigeria, I mean the Federation of Nigeria is making more money today, right? When we subsidize, when we remove the subsidy than in the past when we paid the subsidy. So what I did here with this chart, I picked the highest month just for 2016 to 2023, then 2023 to date. What was the highest month that Nigeria got FAC disbursements? So July 2026, right? About 3 trillion. 3 trillion is what Nigeria got and shared as FAC disbursements. That's a record, 3 trillion. There are lots of things that have gone towards this 3 trillion. There's been no more first line deductions by the NNPC. Everything has gone into FAC. So yes, this is why the FAC has gone up. But the point is, if you compare the fund that the Federation is getting post-FAC, post-subsidy removal, and you compare to what Nigeria got pre-subsidy removal, the gap is massive. The highest I think Nigeria got, I believe that was in May 2023. The largest amount we shared, I believe, is about with 900 billion to a trillion. That's something that Nigeria shared before they removed the subsidy. But post-subsidy, like I just shared with you, we are seeing a figure as high as 3 trillion. So for the folks that want to remove subsidy, they've got two very strong arguments that are very difficult to break down. Number one, they will point you to the fact that Nigeria was spending more on subsidy than health and education combined. Number two, they will show that even the revenues that are flowing to then fund health and education have increased under subsidy removal, because when you remove subsidies, you're able to get more funds. Those are two very, very strong arguments that again are difficult to wave away or to break down. You know, what are you going to say? Are you going to say, listen, we want to make more money. If we remove subsidy, we're going to get more or less money. If you bring back the subsidy, the Federation accounts are going to go a bit lower, because now the Federation is going to go back to funding subsidy. So it's difficult to beat those two arguments, as it were. And I'm just going to share, again, those slides on Twitter for you to have the visual on what we're talking about. So you can see the highest FAC and, of course, the lowest FAC that we did for the year. So two things that you can't beat. I see your request to speak. I'm just going to add you, but just don't respond yet till we're done, and then we can have that discussion. Okay, so now I think we've given the folks, we've given a few answers to the folks that want to remove subsidy. I think I have one more chart. Yeah, so we've made the case now for why we should retain or why we should remove subsidies. We've made the case. Number one, we've spent more on PMS imports and health and education combined. Number two, revenues to Federation have gone up. Those are two strong issues. Let's talk about subsidy and what happens. When you remove subsidy, right, FARC increases. When you remove subsidy, FARC increases. Why? Because it is this federation, the federal, state, and local governments that are paying FARC. Sorry, that are paying the subsidy. I apologize. So anyone that says they want to bring back subsidy, what they are saying is that the remittances that are going to go to the states, to the federal, to the local government is going to go down a bit. Unless they can bring more productive and more corruption-free methods of allowing these payments to go ahead. And there are ways. There are ways Nigeria can still subsidize PMS imports or even PMS that goes to the pumps from the Dangote refinery without corruption. There are many ways. We have NIN phones, we've got e-Naira, we have car registrations, we have cell towers. If you look at all this together, it is possible for Nigeria to say if you are registered as a Bolt, Uber, Kabu, Moluwe, or public transportation, you can go to a Nigerian gas station. We will give you e-Naira. We will give you e-Naira, right, for your PMS subsidy. You will pay e-Naira to the gas attendant, not cash, and the gas attendant can retire that e-Naira back to NNPC or to Dangote. There are ways to do it where we can target subsidy at the pumps, not at the port. The reason why there was so much corruption in the old subsidy scheme was because we were paying subsidy at the ports, not at the pumps. If we remove the subsidies to the pumps, it is possible to pay targeted subsidies to transportation folks who can then buy gas at a lower price and then translate that cost savings to Nigerian consumers. So it's possible. It is possible. But again, let's now go to the side of the folks that say subsidies should come back. Why are they saying subsidies should come back? Let's address the concerns. Let's address the issues we've raised prior. We said there are two things that the folks that want subsidy to go away are going to use. Number one, they're going to say that subsidy spent more on imports than health and education. Number two, they're going to say that subsidy, right, brought more money to FARC. Let's address the second issue. You know, we said about 3 trillion is what was shared in July 2026, and that's a record in Nigeria. We've never shared 3 trillion to the federation units in the history of Nigeria. But when you then take inflation to that 3 trillion and you compare, so in this case, we're trying to say we're going to compare that 3 trillion. Before subsidy, it was 990 billion. Now we're at 3 trillion. But what is the real inflation adjusted number? If you take 3 trillion and you apply Nigeria's inflation to it at December 2022 prices, that's what we're trying to do. Because subsidy was, as at December 2022, we just picked that month and we said that was the highest FARC, or let's just pick that month, December 2022. If we adjust July 2026 back to December 2022, 3 trillion becomes 1.3 trillion. So that 3 trillion now becomes 1.3 trillion. So what you then see is that the argument that subsidy removal has brought in more money to Nigeria becomes less strong, because more money has come, but there's also been inflation. And because there's been inflation, more money has less value. So that 3 trillion has the same value as 1 trillion in 2022. And what was the FARC disbursement in 2022? We said 900 billion to 1 trillion. So all this pain we are getting at the pumps, was it just to add 200 billion to FARC? Because you can't look at the 3 trillion. That's the inflation number. You've got to compare the 3 trillion back to December when you still had FARC. And then when you compare it, it kills one of the major arguments that the folks that want the subsidy to stay, it kills the main argument with that there's more money. Yes, there's more money, but it's not as much as we expected. We've gone to 3 trillion, but it's really 1.2, 1.3. You can even argue 1.5, but it's not that doubling or that tripling. It's much, much less than that. So that's a major issue that we have to then bring to fore that, listen, yes, you've got more money, but you've also got more inflation. You've got to factor that in, right? Number two, the main argument, again, that I said it's difficult for you to argue with, is that the folks will tell you that we spent more on PMS subsidies than we spent on health and education. Fantastic. Okay, we took away subsidies in 2023. And Nigeria got, I'm quoting these numbers now I'm giving to you, are the numbers from the federal government. I don't agree with what they are calculating, but let's use their numbers themselves. So no one was going to say, hey, we're using our numbers are not correct. These numbers you are seeing are from the federal government of Nigeria, right? So let's use those numbers. So what Nigeria said they got, they call it resources. They don't call it revenues. You know, I made the point a long time ago that debt was revenue. Most people said, oh, debt is not revenue, that's not revenue. The Nigerian government is counting debt, borrowings, as cash that's going to go to be spent. You can call it revenues. You can argue accounting that debt is not revenues. What they are calling it here is resources. But what the Nigerian government is saying is that they are going to borrow money, and that borrowed money becomes a resource that they are going to spend. That's what they are saying. The total resource that Nigerian government said they have received from when they removed subsidies till today is about 20 trillion. So keep that number in your head, 20 trillion. From that 20 trillion, how much do you think went to education? How much of 20 trillion went to education? It's only 223 billion. Only 1% of the total resources, not revenues, resources that the federal government raised from the removal of fuel subsidies went to education. So you go back to the point that the guys that want to retain subsidies make. They said before they removed subsidies, Nigeria spent more on subsidies, 13 trillion, than on health and education combined, about 11 trillion or something like that. But now, we now have 20 trillion in total resources. Total resources means they are counting debt plus revenues, core revenues plus debt. They've counted all together and they get 20 trillion. From that 20 trillion, they are telling you that only 222 billion went towards education. Education here meaning NEL fund, the loan that they're giving to students to attend university. This is not good enough, guys. This is not good enough. Wages went to it's about 9 trillion. Debt service, 9 trillion. Infrastructure, 6.5 trillion. So the argument that we're hearing, and this is the point where I think we now start to diverge, the argument that we're being told is that we removed fuel subsidy, made cost of households go up by about 300% because we wanted to pay civil servants a higher salary and wanted to build infrastructure. Not to educate, not for health. Again, not my numbers. The numbers you're looking on the screen, and I've also shared on Twitter, is from the federal government Ministry of Finance Reform Scorecard. It's online. So you can go and look at it. What Nigeria is saying, the argument Nigeria is making, I repeat, is that they removed the fuel subsidies, they got revenues, then they borrowed monies. And when you add the borrowings together with the revenues from fuel subsidy removal, you have your total resources. The total resources is about 20 trillion. What did they do with 20 trillion? They took 9 trillion and paid salaries, new minimum wage to civil servants. They took another 9 trillion and paid debt. They were owing. They borrowed, so they went and paid debt. Not to pay down the debt, to service the debt. So they are still owing, but they are paying the interest. Then they took 6 trillion and they built infrastructure. When they had finished doing this, they then went back to education and gave education. When I mean, this is their own numbers. Only 223 billion, not even a trillion. Education, health did not get a trillion from the total resources that the federal government of Nigeria says they received when they removed subsidy, including debt. So at this point, it's difficult to defend the removal of subsidy. Again, we're being data driven. And you know, guys, I've told you where I stand on this argument. So where do I now stand on this argument? I still stand that paying subsidies is a waste and is corrupt because we are doing it wrongly. But I don't support any government that would impose costs on the people just to pay salaries for civil servants alone, service debt, and infrastructure. People are going to say, but Carlo, infrastructure is very important. Like I said, wait for my last slide. My last slide, I have a picture that will just, it will make you sad, but to explain to you why we have to focus on health education. So this is a slide. And when you have a picture like this, I don't think the guys that are fighting for subsidy still have that power again. They've communicated wrongly. When people say we want to go back to subsidy, the answer should not be we have more revenues, because people don't see the revenues. The revenues are not going to the people. How many Nigerians work for the federal government, i.e. civil servants? Maybe 1 million. How many Nigerians do we have? 220 million. So if you are removing subsidy for 220 million to pay salaries to 1 million, you see the point? You see the problem there? Debt service, we have to pay our debts. But I don't see it. I'm a guy in Kogi. I don't see debt service. So if you tell me you are paying debt service, what's that? So it doesn't matter. I don't see it. You are building infrastructure. We've seen the videos all through the weekend of the Asaba Benin Road. It's a mess, right? So we don't think all infrastructure can be built in 3 years. But those pictures are jarring. That after 3 years of record revenues, we still have roads that look like that. They are jarring. And that's, I think, guys, is the problem. But let's go on. I think we'll spend some time on this slide. Let's go further. The other thing that we want to now home in on is food inflation. Why food inflation? Because food is what everyone eats. There is no other item you can pick on in Nigeria and say, let's pick on this, that everyone does that. Not everybody drives a car. Not everybody lives in his own apartment or pays rent, but everybody eats. So if people do not see cheap food, there's nothing you can tell them. If food is expensive and you tell Nigerians, we've paid subsidy, we haven't paid subsidy, we have macroeconomic stability, it doesn't mean anything to them. Like I said, if you ask them on the street, should subsidy come back, he can't tell you the economics of it. But if you tell him how much is tomato, how much is beans, he'll tell you it's expensive and that it was cheaper when we had subsidy and now it's more expensive. That's what they are connecting. That you removed subsidies and the price of food went up. They're not connecting the fact that you are doing this, you are paying, it doesn't matter to them. And this is where I feel there's been a failure of communication by the guys in the federal government to link everything to macroeconomics, to say inflation is doing well, GDP is going up, debt, foreign reserves are going up, but the cost of tomato, the cost of rice is also going up. Has FARC caused food prices to go up? Not really. We are not arguing that when you have higher FARC disbursements, that causes inflation. We're rather arguing that there's been no supply of food in Nigeria, new food sources, the value chain. Why are we making this argument? Where does the food in Nigeria come from? The Middle Belt, the North. That's where the cereals, the tubers come from. Those areas are under insurgency, banditry, and general insecurity. Farmers are paying tolls to go to the farms. So what has happened is that because we haven't addressed the security of the food basket, food costs have gone up. The reason why inflation in Nigeria has gone down is because Nigeria is importing food. Nigeria has not grown its food output organically. What we have done is we've taken monies and we're importing food. This means that if we stop importing food, inflation is going to go right back up. The Central Bank of Nigeria has done a great job in managing monetary expansion. That is a fantastic job, and that's their role. Their role is to focus on the monetary part. But Nigeria has not grown its value chain to generate tubers, cereals on a steady and bring in new supply. And if that new supply comes to the marketplace, then Nigeria is able to then see the price of goods come down. Because we haven't done that, and we have increased the FAC disbursements, we now have the classic case of inflation where we have too much money chasing too few goods. And unless you address food inflation in Nigeria, no Nigerian is going to agree with you that subsidy should go away and all that. They will not. So it's any politician that comes and says, I'm going to remove subsidy. Nigerians are not hearing that the macro will go bad or that the savings are going to go bad. What they are hearing is that he's going to take us back to where we were in 2022. And I've showed you where we were in 2022. Things were cheaper. Not cheap, cheaper. It's a clear differentiation. So this is where we are. It's not an economic, it's a psychological feeling. I have this chart here again. The same thing is saying pre-subsidy food inflation was 18 to 20%. After we removed subsidies, the peak food inflation went as high as 40. It's come down drastically to 20, but it went high. And it's been imprinted in consumers' minds that when we removed subsidies, food prices went up. It's been imprinted. You can't go and tell people, don't believe your eyes. Don't believe what you're experiencing. You've got to go in and reduce the cost of food, which is what the administration on their own understood. They understood that they had to reduce the price of food. That's why they went and allowed food imports to come in. So kudos to them. But they haven't done it in a massive enough scale to bring down the cost of food. We should be rice should be going for about 20,000 naira when you import massive amount, because you want to basically bring down the cost of food down. I'm not supporting imports. I am saying if you want to address food imports, you've got to import much more than you're doing. Why import? The local farmers can't farm. So whilst the army is dealing with the insurgency, you've got to import food. Once the army deals with the insurgency, you invest in the value chain and get food output back. But you can't wait, you can't dilly-dally. Remember when we had fuel subsidy and the palliative was they were sharing 2-3 trailers of rice to state, remember? The federal government told all the senators, all the house guys, we're going to give you rice, go and share the rice. That was the palliative that they were issuing for fuel subsidy removal. Where are the electric buses? Have you guys seen an electric bus that was promised? Have you guys seen them? No, they are coming, but we haven't seen them. This is the point. So when people say want to go back to 2022, they are saying at least in 2022 prices were cheaper, and they are not wrong. You can't address or respond to that by saying, oh, the market economy is getting better. You've got to address that by saying this is what we are going to do with food. Food is the basic thing in Nigeria. Let's go on. I got 2 more slides, guys, and I'm done. 2 more slides. And I want to pick Kebbi Rice. Kebbi Rice to me was a great initiative. You had a Kebbi state, agrarian state, it produced rice. You had Lagos state, urban state, they don't produce rice as much as Kebbi. So Kebbi and Lagos go into a partnership. Kebbi says, we'll give you rice, Lagos has to buy that rice, subsidize the rice, and give to citizens. So in essence, you have Kebbi supplying cheap local rice to Lagos, Lagos buying that local rice, giving to the citizens. So Lagos is reducing inflation in Lagos State by doing this. Kebbi is boosting output in Kebbi by doing this. Nigeria's GDP is going up. Wonderful initiative. Where is it today? Do you guys still see Kebbi Rice? I doubt it. There's insurgency there. So Kebbi Rice output is going to fall. I have a before and after. Before fuel subsidy was removed, rice was going from about 28,000 to about 42,000. Now rice is in some places up, some places down. Rice price today is driven by how good they have smuggled rice. That's what's driving rice price today. So if you go to a place and the smugglers are very efficient, the cost of rice has gone down. You see all the articles by Fisayo the investigative journalism, how he goes and he records rice coming in through customs enabled passageways, cars coming in with rice. That's why your rice is cheap. Not because we are growing rice, but because we are smuggling in rice. On an organic macro level, Nigeria has not invested in our value chain. We have the largest rice mills in the world, in Africa, in Nigeria, but we're not producing rice sufficient to keep those rice mills humming. That's what's going on. We don't have enough paddy. We have the rice mills, but we don't have enough paddy. So this is a key point to you guys. Like, if you take away subsidy and you have revenues, take those revenues and invest in the agri value chain so that food can become cheaper. If we had done that 3 years ago, today, rice, local organic rice, would have been cheaper. Then when you make the argument, you can tell people, we removed rice, we removed PMS subsidies, your costs went up, but today, because we have local rice, your food costs are coming down. So give us more time to do infrastructure. The same thing has happened. You have bad roads, but as we're investing in infrastructure, you are getting good roads. You have expensive schools, expensive hospitals. As we're investing in infrastructure, it's coming down. But what's the reality? You got 20 trillion resources and only invested 1%, 1.1% in education. So you've lost that argument. Finally, I think this is my final slide I want to share. Like I said, I said I was going to show you guys a final slide. I was going to just break your heart, but it'll be very, very instructive on where Nigeria is today. This is a slide. I'm going to make sure I share it on Twitter. So if you can, just go to Twitter. I'm going to share this slide. I saw it over the weekend. It is my last post I'm just making now on Twitter. So if you want to see this, just go straight to Twitter and look at the last post I'm making, or go on YouTube. That's what I have there. I saw it on social media and it needs some explaining so that you see what's going on. So what you see is, it's a video. These are just the stills that I took. Essentially, you see young men. I don't know what town this is, but they are young men, and you see what they are doing. They are taking heavy stones to break. You can see that's like the covered gutter. So this town basically did roads and did covered gutters. And when you do covered gutters, they put cement and then they put the iron rods in the cement. What you see this guy is doing, they are breaking the cement to get to the iron rods. When they get the iron rods, they're going to take them out. They're going to sell them as scrap iron rods. So education versus infrastructure. We invested in infrastructure without educating, without feeding, without providing basic services for these kids. Because these kids are hungry, they can't eat infrastructure. So they've got to go and break down the infrastructure to get the iron rods to sell to eat. That's what's going on. When the coastal road was done, what happened? We saw tents of poor people living on the coastal road. Then the government got them out. So this is a very, very sensitive thing to say, because people are going to say, but Carly, you always argue for infrastructure. Without infrastructure, you can't eat. But you can't eat infrastructure. Any society that focuses on infrastructure and ignores its youth will suffer the same fate. If they are doing this on this street in this town, wherever town this is, they will do it on the coastal road. They're going to go there, break that coastal road, take out the iron rods and sell so they can eat. It's right here. This is the video. It's not, I mean, if you look at the video, it's online. You will see this video, right? And that's the point with Nigeria. When we in the past, from 2016 to 2023, we put more investments in PMS subsidies and health education. Today, we've done the exact same thing. So both the president, Buhari, both the president, Tinubu, have taken more money for other things than health and infrastructure. And this is the result. So when folks say, should we bring back the subsidy? This is why it's having traction. That's why on that poll I just shared, 58% want to go back to having less FARC, but cheaper gas. Because they'll say, at least, let me get cheap gas. If today I'm getting expensive gas, but I'm not getting school, let me at least get cheaper gas. And when citizens start to talk like this, then you have failed. You failed. And this is the problem, guys. All right, let's go to our speakers that have been patient with us. Nehemiah, I've got Nehemiah, then Emeka, then Gospel. Nehemiah, hi, how are you doing, sir? Welcome in.
Yes, good. Can you hear me? Good
I can
evening.
hear you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Great, great, great. Thank you very much for this, for bringing this up, this whole subsidy discussion. Is suddenly it suddenly become a topic of discourse. I believe it's mostly because of the 2027 elections. But leaving the politics out of it and looking at the economics. Thank you for breaking this down. I think I remember, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I don't remember the last time we had this same discussion about subsidy and looking at the NNPC's financial books. Now, the question I really have is, because you know that the events that happened in 2023, the major events were that subsidy was, there was a claim that subsidy is gone, and then there was the Naira flute. I like to call it the devaluation of the Naira, right? And from what you just said today, that the FAC allocation before the quote and unquote subsidy was removed and now are not really different. So the increase in FAC, I am tempted to believe, was because of the Naira adjustment and not necessarily because of the removal of subsidy. Again, why I'm saying this is on what we just talked about today, the I'm sorry, and combine what we talked about the last time about the same subsidy, and when we saw that NNPC's books still show that there was some form of payment that was not necessarily called subsidy, but was called energy security, right? So if in the last 2 years those monies have still been paid, then the increase in fact may have been due to the Naira dollar exchange rates that changed. So I'm tempted to ask, if subsidy has not really gone, then what are we removing? I don't know if you get my question. Are we removing anything at all?
Yeah, it's I get your question, and lots of folks say this, lots of arguments on Twitter. So let me just be very, very clear with you. Yes, there was a subsidy. You have to understand what subsidy is to know that it has been removed. Subsidy is very, very simple. In Nigeria, we fix the price of retail gas. It's fixed. So let's assume we fix the price at 200 naira. That's the retail price we have fixed it on. What they did is that if you import PMS into Nigeria and you import, you clear, you do all those costs, it comes to 250 naira. That extra 50 you can't sell. You have to eat that cost. So because of that, nobody will import PMS because you are importing at 250, but you can sell at 200. So the government says, okay, don't worry, import your PMS, but that 50 we will pay for it. So what was happening was that NNPC was paying that 50 because they were the only ones that were importing at a certain point. So when you add that 50 up over the years, that's the 4 trillion that you are seeing us talk about. That's that. So if you go back and you keep on adding those figures, what you are getting is that in 2016 you got 240 billion, 2021 1.4 trillion. That's those 50 nairas per liter multiplied. That was the subsidy. What has happened, like where the commission has come from, is that when Tinubu came to office in 2023, he said subsidy is gone, and they took away subsidy. But the outcry and the pain was so intense that they had to bring it back. But they brought it back under other names. So in 2023, I believe we spent, is it 4 trillion on subsidy? For 2024, we spent 7 trillion. It's in the NNPC annual report, so not my numbers. So if you go to the, and I talked about it last week, if you go to the NNPC's annual report, you see it there. It's under energy security now, not under subsidy. So we paid subsidy in 2023, we paid something in 2024. We don't know for the other years because we don't have the annual reports. So there's a subsidy and the subsidy has been removed. You point about exchange rate differential. When they share FAC, there's a line there for exchange rate differential. It's there. So they already capture exchange rate differential. And when the foreign currency was devalued or depreciated, it was a huge contributor to FAC. Now it's no longer because we now have the base effect. So it has been sort of been taken away. But it's there. If you pull up maybe, go and pull up maybe August 2023 FAC. You see there, any of those earlier years, you see the exchange rate differential as a contributor to FAC. It's there. So what's going on today is that the subsidy is there. It's being paid by NNPC. I'm caveating as that 2023, 2024. NNPC has not published results after then, so we don't know if today they are still being paid. But as at 2023, 2024, yes, it was still being paid. Does that make sense, sir?
Yes, it does. That's why I was asking. So if the latest numbers show us that, then the proponents of removal, now if NNPC comes tomorrow and they still have that same number, then we're not removing anything.
Yes, we haven't removed anything, but where's the revenues coming from? What we've done, I get where you're going to with this. So what we've done is that we've increased the price of PMS. We've taken away some subsidy, because who is paying the subsidy? Federation. So all subsidy is that the federation says, I'm not going to pay, let the Nigerians pay. Somebody is paying. There's a subsidy. So there's a subsidy, but who is paying is the debate. If the federation is paying, okay, that's NNPC. But you and I today are the ones paying. You and I. And that's where you see the pain in Nigeria, because people are saying my minimum wage has gone up by 70% to 70,000 naira, but inflation has also galloped as high. Rice used to be 40K, now it's 50K and all that kind of stuff. So there's real pain that things have gone up in price and there's no palliative. There is no way. That was where they missed it. I'm shocked that the president missed it. When we had Petroleum Trust Fund, I'm sure I know how old you are, sir, but Petroleum Trust Fund was also subsidy removal. A president back then removed subsidy and he created Petroleum Trust Fund. I was in university. That was the first time I saw in my life infrastructure being built across Nigeria at scale. Roads, health hospitals, the military, housing estates. They had PTF road, PTF cars, PTF fares. Everything was being done across Nigeria. So even though Nigerians were protesting that the PTF caused fuel prices to go up, that was in Kobo. The fuel price went up from whatever Kobo it was, maybe 1 naira. But people were seeing the roads. At a point, people stopped complaining because every part of Nigeria was touched by PTF. They came to my university. They did projects in my university. They had buses. They had everything. So you could see it. It wasn't like there's a coastal road somewhere. Then on YouTube, someone will show you, oh, this is a Calabar coastal road. If it's there, you don't have to show me. If it's there, you don't have to show Nigerians where road is. Nobody showed us PTF. Even Shaw P that the government did while back. We had UWIN. We had Shaw P. We had all this. So the mistake Tinubu did was taking the money and giving to governors. Yes, you can't hold back governors' money, but they should have tagged it the same way they tagged Paris Club refund. If you go to Nigeria, don't you see Sukuk? You go on some road, you see Sukuk. Sukuk is a bond. The federal government goes to the bond market and borrows money for infrastructure. They call it Sukuk bond. It's an Islamic bond, but they want to use it for infrastructure. When you go on the road, you see Sukuk 4, Sukuk 2, Sukuk 1 funding that road. So if you go and ask federal government, where is this money for Sukuk? They will show you. See it here. They will show you the road. They will show you the contractor, and you can go to that road and you will see the slab, Sukuk bond. But now they got 3 trillion, maybe in May, 3 trillion. They should have tagged it. So they will give you a normal FAQ. They will now say fuel subsidy removal, whatever, fund. Give it to them again. So that I can go to my state and say, my dear state, I want to know how you spend this money that you got from subsidy removal. Because they didn't do it, some states took their money and did good things. You can see some state governors building roads. Some state governors took their money and are doing marriages. Fine. Some took their money and have gone abroad. But because you are not tracking it, they mixed into the normal FAQ and it's not trackable. That's why people are saying we're not seeing the money. Then president says, go to your state. How can you go to your state and track what you don't know to track? You can track Sukuk because the income is tagged. How do you track this 3 billion when it's inside FAQ? That's the problem, Nehemiah. All right, fantastic. Let's get gospel. Then I'll come back to you. We'll get Gospel, we'll get Solomon. Gospel, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Carlo. Very brilliant conversation so far. And let me just say it up front. I have never supported the removal of subsidy. I still do not. The reasons are obvious. You have the chart you shared here, where we looked at the figures from 2016 and then compared it to 2023. How the figures moved from about 900 billion, if I'm not correct, if I'm not wrong. Let me just pull it up your tweet here.
From 2016, so, yes, 240 billion to 2022, how can you?
4.4 trillion.
Yeah.
That means we are basing the argument about how much we are spending on fuel subsidy and the fact that, we're not spending 4.4 trillion. But in the real sense, are we really spending 4.4 trillion? And are we really spending it on fuel subsidy? That is the question we have to ask, have an issue. Why I ask this question is this: if Nigeria was a private business and we were spending 240 billion on a particular item, and somehow in less than 10 years it moved to 4.4 trillion, serious question would have been asked, and people would know whether indeed the company was spending 4.4 trillion or whether some people were just stealing the money and eating it. Carlo, as we speak, as when we are paying subsidy, Nigeria did not know how much petrol we consume in one day.
They still don't know. They still don't know now.
They still do not know.
They still don't know now.
We are paying arbitrary figure for arbitrary amount we are consuming. Yeah. People we are taking the petrol and taking it outside of the country and selling it at cheaper rates and making money. So the point I'm trying to make, Carlo, is that we were paying a humongous fraud system.
I agree.
Not real consumption in the country. So my argument have always been that if we clean out the subsidy system, the figure will come down to a figure that Nigeria can comfortably pay for the people of this country to benefit.
I agree. Gospel, Gospel, let me just even help you out. I completely agree with you. Like I said, the subsidy, the way we have run it in Nigeria is the problem, not the subsidy itself. I think if we go back to the subsidy and we say we want to give subsidy to only commercial transportation people, right? The figure will drop massively. We can track it because if you have a combi bus, it's going to be on your license. This car is used for commercial. Abi, if you go to the pump, government can say when you register your car as a bus, let's say you have a combi bus, when you register that bus as a public, when you go to the road safety, they'll give you your number. Your car has a VIN. Every month, the government can say this VIN has received 50,000 naira, e-naira. So it's worthless for you to use it anywhere else. So this VIN, which is attached to this car, has received 50,000 e-naira. How do I spend it? I drive my combi bus to a gas station. They put gas in the car. Instead of giving the gas guy cash, I'll bring out my NIN-enabled phone. Why NIN-enabled phone? Because it's hitting a cell tower. So I know I'm in Nigeria. So I can't use this outside Nigeria. So I bring out my NIN phone and I do like POS. I tap and I pay from my e-naira to her POS. So I've spent that 50K from my phone to her phone. She then gets the money. She can go and settle with NNPC or with Dangote. So that bus guy has filled his truck, buying diesel at maybe 100 naira a liter. He can now charge me a cheaper fare. We can do this with technology, with AI, with biometric. It will remove the corruption because we're paying the subsidy now at the pump. So you are right. The figure would fall from 4 trillion. It will fall drastically because you can't export it. You can't ping a tower in Niger Republic because you can't use that phone in Niger. They say, it won't work. And e-naira, because it's e-naira, you can't use cash. So this is how we should be thinking about. If we do that now, right, we can go back to subsidy. The figure will fall. There will be no corruption. And then the pain on the citizens will reduce. But we can't say no. No is not a strategy. And we can't say yes. Yes, it's not a strategy. We've got to be methodological and use IT to solve things. That's the point I'm agreeing with you on, sir.
Very correct, Carlo. And I think you made the point around that, so I will not rehash. So the summary of the matter for anybody in this space is that indeed Nigeria can afford to pay subsidy. Just like you said, Carlo, all over the world, governments pay subsidy for one thing or the other. even in countries that the people are richer.
Yeah.
Talk more of a place like Nigeria where people cannot even feed.
Yeah.
And you're taking away the one thing that affects everything, Kalu.
Yeah.
Petrol affects everything in this country.
That
From
is true.
food you eat, from your clothes to your children's school fees, it does. I have a friend who used to earn 194,000 naira in 2022. He could fill his car with 15,000 naira. So, with his salary in 1 month, he could fill his car about 12 times. Today, he earns about 350,000. He needs about 510,000 to fill his car. So he can fill his car roughly just about 3 times.
In a
So
month.
you see that this guy has become in a month.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to do the full tank, because like I said, he needs about 105,000 or so to fill his tank. Compared to about 15,000
the number is just crazy. How can you take 100,000 to fill a tank? 100,000 to fill a tank.
What it is, Carlo?
My rent, I'm trying to think. My rent was 40-something thousand a year. It's crazy. The numbers are crazy. This is like SEFA. When we grew up, we used to look at SEFA as it wasn't like money. It was, you go to Togo, they'll tell you a bottle of Coke is 1,000 SEFA. We used to laugh. Now this comes to Nigeria. How can you fill your tank with 100K? How
exactly?
How is that possible?
So they keep making the argument about the governors are earning more money, but you've also dissected that figure. The 3 trillion is actually around 1 point something trillion. So in the real sense, they're not earning more money. And then the people whom you're taking, because this subsidy in the real sense of it was that government was helping us make this thing cheaper. Now government is saying, go and buy it at normally. So government is taking more money from my pocket, just like I've said, in when I give the analogy of the petrol, this thing, and giving it to state governors. And Kanu, like you've also said, we are not seeing anything to justify the struggle we are seeing. I'm from Rivers State, one of the most richest states in the country. But there's nothing on ground to make me, even though I don't live there, but I follow up things at home. There's nothing on ground to make me say, okay, well, the governor is earning more money from this fact that I'm struggling to buy petrol. So let me just watch and see how things unfold. Maybe in the next few months or so, there'll be more roads going to my village and what have you. So the point, just so that I can keep the line running, friends in this place, Nigeria can afford to pay subsidy. Anybody that tells you that otherwise is not saying the truth. And Carlo, I also shared the link to what Atiku, said, even though
Atiku. When I started up the space, I led with the survey I did on my page, and there are about 2,000 respondents. I don't want to use Atiku. Once you use Atiku, they'll say it's political, but there are 2,000 people that have said yes, bring it back, and it's not a scientific poll. But the point I want to make to the government is this: you can't. Kalu, I know economics, I know Nigerian fact, I know numbers. I support the removal of subsidy because I felt, and I still feel, that the past was corrupt. But I can't make that case to Nigerians when we then raised 20 trillion and we only spend 200 or so billion for education. It's like saying you tell your child to go to school. Then you yourself, you don't read at home, you didn't go to school, you don't value education, you don't value science. Kids watch by observation. So the government is telling us one thing, but doing another thing. That's the problem with the country. No morality. Let's just keep moving on. Solomon, you've got the floor, Solomon. Everyone's going to speak. Solomon, please go ahead, sir. Thank you, Gospel. Solomon, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Solomon.
How you doing, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. I just want to be brief because of persons behind me. I feel this government is getting it wrong with the economy, actually, because of this subsidy, and they're not being sincere. Because disposable income right now is very low.
Very, very.
Very, very low. The cost of living is outrageous. And to crown it all, there are no safety nets to cushion the effects of the subsidy.
Yeah.
Not at all. That is my that's my point of argument.
Yeah. You're right.
Buhari's regime to Tinubu's tenure. During Buhari's tenure, there are safety nets to cushion the effects of cost of living, like Empower, Trader Money, and the likes of it. But now, looking at this post subsidy removal, there's nothing on ground, actually, to be sincere. If you argue about the subsidy, they will tell you CNG, they'll tell you nail funds, but you can't even see them apart from the nail funds that you're seeing. So my argument is there should be safety nets to cushion the effects of this subsidy removal because it's outrageous. Thank you.
Yeah, well said. And so the problem is, again, is that Buhari's economics, and the problem again is that this Buhari's economics were not the best. He shut the borders, he paid the subsidy, but Nigerians are saying that when he did that bad economics, the costs were lower. And it's a problem because if you allow that narrative to take hold, the next president is going to basically run a populist economy. We're going to spend all our money, we won't invest it. And they'll say, well, Tinubu ran a capitalist economy, he didn't do well. This guy ran a socialist economy, he did well. So we're not being good stewards of the little resources that we have. That's my fear on that. We have Enna. Enna, hi, please go ahead, Enna.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 10. The Bible says wisdom is profitable for direction. The American debt stands at $40 trillion today.
40.
And is jumped by 11 trillion in recent time. So that tells you a signal of major inefficiencies in government. And when Trump came into power, one of the first things he did, which received the major attention, was Department of Government Efficiency, which tells you that we can even give a bureaucracy factor to governance that can slow things in governance, and it's everywhere if America can be dealing with that. Three things are due for the spike in the American debt: war in Iraq, bipartisan funding programs like Medicaid, and lastly, COVID. Now to the question: should Nigeria bring back the PMS subsidy? The answer is no. One, I think as an OPEC country, we should actually be crying. It was Eva of Argentina that said, cry not for Argentina. Because what that predicates is that if we can be dealing with this level of inefficiency in our cash cow, which is oil and gas, it tells you down the line what it really implies for other sectors of our economy. Because we discovered crude in 1950, and up till now, we're still talking about subsidy. When in 2014, Singapore, that does not have a drop of crude oil processing accounted for 16% of their GDP. So what this tells me, I'm looking at the signals. One, Nigeria does not understand the business of oil and the oil. I leave it at that. So why do I say subsidy should not come out, should not be replaced? Now, it was Albert Einstein who said, you cannot solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. I'm a proponent for change as a person, but I'm very particular when people are speaking, which is change is in three facets: transitory, developmental, transformational, which is what kind of change are you projecting and how would that fall back? Secondly, if a system is not effective, I'm not saying a proponent of changing it. I'm a proponent of increasing efficiency before you change systems. Because I guarantee you, if you change a system and the current factors that made that previous system ineffective, 100% will be to play the same way. What do I mean? Obasanjo, Niger Delta crisis. We like throwing money at problems. We do not like solving problems. We do like a fire brigade approach, or what I'll call political expediency. We just massage the symptoms and we leave the root cause analysis. Look at the Niger Delta crisis. What did Obasanjo do? He threw money at the issue, 13% derivation. If I ask you, Carlo, NDDC, trillions have gone into NDDC, Niger Delta Ministry, PTDF, Southeast Development Commission. If I ask you, Carlo, all of these commissions and the monies that have been thrown, I can also go to ecological fund. I can go to excess crude oil account. I can go to Paris buyback. I can keep same slush funds that have been thrown. Every president, leave Tinubu now, every president has used slush funds for political expediency, and every president will do that anywhere in the world. So the big question is, can we continue on the same route? Can we take a wrong direction and be expecting the wrong result? No. we should always remember that we should be crying because Nigeria is an oil and gas country. But if you look at the value chain, the technological chain, the knowledge chain in the oil and gas industry, we have not one single footprint, either coming from our cost of production, either coming to our technological footprint upon it, either coming to our final investment decisions. In conclusion, why am I saying no? I would not bring back subsidy because that is where we are at the moment. And why am I saying that? We have gas flaring 312 trillion cubic feet, million cubic feet of gas. We have about 32 billion barrels proven reserves of crude oil, and we're talking about subsidy. I think we're having a wrong discussion. Like, are we in the space? And why am I saying this? The oldest refinery in the world, which is the root cause now, the issue at hand that we're running away from. The oldest refinery in the world was built in 1901, the Boy Refinery in India. That refinery, after 125 years, is still kicking. We have about 4 refineries owned by government. I have to say 400%. Let's say 400,000 barrels a day combined capacity. Now you have Dangote at 650. That's about 1 million. A barrel of crude will give you 42 gallons. 42, which is about 105 liters, and it will give you 75 liters of petrol. Looking at petrol, for example, just using a PMS, which means a 500,000 barrel per day refinery, like we see Dangote, to build it today, tentatively, will take you $15 to $19 billion. Now, Carlo, if I build today, either through direct investment or I sponsor like Dangote, the Adele case, or any other person, Honeywell guy, anybody big in industry, Isaac Rabiu, instead of building disparate, and I say, okay, like you have the Three Gorges Dam in China, a single facility which processes 25,000, generates 25,000 megawatts per day. So I'll say the issue is that we're not thinking big. Why am I saying that? This is why I will not bring it back. Because if I develop a 500,000 barrel per day refinery today at between 15 to 19 billion dollars, let me put it at 20 billion dollars. That single facility processing that crude, if you look at the PIA that was passed, there's a certain amount of crude that must be pushed to local refineries. Government is government. They can push the crude for local consumption straight to that refinery. And I process all of that for the local market. I'll be generating about 37.5 million liters of petroleum per day. So my big question is, should we continue in an inefficient path, which is a constant decimal globally? And that inefficiency, either in power, either in transportation, either in telecommunication, either in aviation, either in petroleum refinery, is where people make money from, and people will continue to make money, which is people are leveraging upon it to make trillions. So as a government, which Section 14, subsection 2B of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution says, the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary concern of government. And petroleum being a central decimal in the welfare, the security, and the viability of the economy, what will I do as President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and Federal Republic of Nigeria today, knowing that the coastal road is costing 11 trillion? Yeah. I would commission and build as an engineer in 4 years a brand new 500,000 barrel per day refinery, and that is the only way to solve the problem. Any other way, if you like, remove subsidy, the inefficiencies that are globally constant in any country will suck up the benefit for the people. If you put subsidy back, the inefficiency that are corruption everywhere in the world, like is prevalent in Nigeria, will play until we hit it headlong and solve the issue of the problem. And remember who we are, whose we are. We are an oil production.
Yeah. I mean, we always have the Dangote refinery. So, what?
It's a private investment. So
you want the government to go back to owning refineries? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not saying the ownership strategy must be with government. And I'm not saying Dangote will be taken out of the mix, but I'm just saying we have to face the right direction.
Gotcha.
The more we pour water on the fire, we're pouring more things to burn the fire. And there's so much inefficiency in the process. You can never achieve anything out of it. But a refinery, which is a facility that you can build and secure, like Dangote refinery, and secure that we can build another one instead of Boa building in Akwa Ibom, one guy Zike building in Bayelsa.
Yeah.
3 Gorges Dam in China produces 25,500 megawatts. This is an issue of national security concern. This is an issue of national economic and survivability. Based upon that, it needs that same effort. You cannot solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. And look at the benefits to Forex. And it was Ray Manuel who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. It's a good crisis. The solution is so explicit, so easy. Tinubu has the temperament of the person that can push such thing through. Dangote has proven that we can build a refinery in a short time. Let's go for that and stop beating air. If not, we'll just keep meeting. Anywhere you tilt, the inefficiencies in the system are guaranteed. The people benefiting from that inefficiencies are guaranteed, whether it's the West or locally.
Yeah.
Continue to ensure that nothing comes out from subsidy or no subsidy. Let's build a brand new refinery. Thank you and God bless.
Understood. Lots of points there shared by Anna. Lots of points there. There's inefficiency and people are benefiting from the inefficiency. We can't take that away. But it's just, I'm astonished that this is the most business-friendly present I would say we've had, and this is happening. I don't know. Let's get Ayinla. Ayinla, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Ayinla, how you doing? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, so I believe for everybody contribution, especially the last speaker submission, right? And the last thing we talked about reaching.
Ayinla, you have a lot of background noise. You have, we can look at you have a lot of background noise.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes.
All right, so based on the topic, what last speaker said, I think I picked 2 things from what last speaker said, which is power and building of refinery, right? And my own argument on this topic is, you know, I've been following you for a very long time. I think I followed you since 2017 or 2018. And I've always been reading your tweets about how you always speak against this subsidy, that and everything. And when this administration came in and they pulled it up and all, I also read about your kind of suggestion on what should be done, you know, to cushion the effect and what they are not doing. I think there was a time you both tweeted that they didn't implement it the right way that should be done also. But now we are here, it's almost 4 years down to the line that the subsidy was removed. And many people have come on board to say.
Ayla, I'm sorry, your audio is very bad. Can I ask you just to get to the point so I can try to explain? Your audio is very, very low. If you can maybe speed it up so we can. Hello?
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm not.
Hello, can you hear me?
Let me get who's the guy?
Hello. Am I audible?
Your audio is very bad, Ayla. When you go to a quiet place and just try to call us back, yeah? Just go to a quiet place and try to call us back, yeah? Let me get Cyrus. Cyrus, hi, how you doing?
Hi, good evening, Carlo. How are you doing too? Wonderful space as always.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're fantastic. Yep, go for it.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Subsidy or no subsidy, I think sometimes we get swallowed up in narrative rather than the fact of the matter, right? So the issue with many Nigerians, or not many, but some Nigerians, is that they've allowed us being conditioned by this narrative of subsidy is bad. End of discussion.
Yeah.
You don't need to say anything about it again. There's no need for nuances. There's no need for analysis. There's no need for, having different points of view or even explaining why the subsidy is bad in the first place. It's just that, well, it's a self-justifying statement, right? It's an, So the problem is that sometimes I feel like we confuse subsidy with price pegging, right? Both of them are form of subsidy, but not all subsidies are price pegging. Price pegging is that you take the price of a commodity and peg it at a certain rate, no matter the market fundamentals. That is price pegging. That was what we've been doing for since 1970, and then we reduced it, and then the government stepped back and then pegged it for a certain period of time. But that is not all the source that there is, right? And if you look at countries around the world, there is no growing economy today that does not subsidize its main source of energy.
True.
Whether at the investment point, at the consumption point, or at the the production point.
Yeah.
So if we look at South Africa today, the main source of energy consumption in South Africa today is coal. They have different contractual agreement with those who are coal miner to supply to their main electricity company, which is Eskom, right? Some of those contracts go as long as 30 years agreement, which government paid a part of it, Eskom paying a part of it. At the end of the day, the consumer, which is the South African people, they get cheaper electricity. So when you come and say, "Oh, no subsidy is bad," you've lost the nuances. We all know, everybody know the loopholes and the problems with the past subsidy we used to have, right? Which was the 1973 or so framework of price pegging, right? But what happened is that, what is the logic behind that? The price of oil went up.
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria was an oil producing state. We started generating high revenue from oil, and the windfall of that is that the pump price of petrol become very expensive to the common man. So the government of the day that time, the Gowan-led government of the that time, said, "Look, let us subsidize and peg the price of this particular commodity to a certain rate so that people can afford it," right? That thing became a political issue, and since then nobody was there to remove it. This government came in, they removed the subsidy, which I felt was even absolutely, it was not political, it was not democratical. They just removed it the way they wanted to remove it, and they did. But they removed the subsidy when the price of crude, you and I remember, was around $60 to $65 per barrel, right? That was when they removed the subsidy. Something happened. The price of crude went as high as $110, $120. Right now, the price of crude is not lesser than $78, $79, depending on the way you're looking at it. If you had the $2, $3 premium at which it's selling, is around $80 to $82. What that means is that at the pump, the price of petrol will be about $1,200, $1,300, wherever, depending on where you are in the country. The government today has not shown you or demonstrated any kind of willingness on how to regulate energy costs, which is the main. Nigeria consume petrol, gas. Those are the two main things, and maybe diesel for factories and manufacturers. They've not shown you any form. I remember there was a time the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria wrote to the government and asked them for some kind of quote-unquote subsidy. They did not respond to them, right? So for someone to come and say, "Oh, no subsidy, it's going to ruin the economy," perhaps you are talking about price pegging, irrespective of market fundamental. Today, we have a structural system that could really help, in regulating energy price, which is Dangote refinery, right? Kalu, am I?
You are still here, but I'm not sure what's happening to your audio. I can still hear you.
Okay. So let me just wrap up in a minute. So we have Dangote refinery, we have all kind of system in place. If the government has the imaginative capacity to make things work, we have all kind of system in place that can reduce energy cost. Call it subsidy, call it government interference, call it whatever, because the logical conclusion of those who are laissez-faire and are saying no subsidy, no government interference, no government support, no incentive on the part of in the petroleum industry, what they are literally saying is that if the price of crude goes as high as $150 per barrel, $200 per barrel, which is quite possible. Because we've seen what is happening in Iran, we've seen what's happening in other places, which is driving prices. We've seen what happened in the
Yeah, sorry.
pipeline infrastructure. So if the price of crude goes as high as $150, these people that are telling that no subsidy, they would rather want petrol to be sold at 2,500 naira at the pump price, with government doing nothing.
Yeah, but
they will tell you that
Cyrus, if I could maybe come in there, I think that we're getting a bit technical. like I said at the beginning, I don't think Nigerians care about the economics or the macro or they don't really care. I think the point is that Nigerians are looking at their wallets in 2026, 2020. I'm not sure it's making that sound. But yeah, and then they're just wondering size and saying things are more expensive today with no subsidy, but things were cheaper with subsidy. That's what they are really connecting the dots on. They're just saying that we're very simple people. You took away subsidy, things are harder now. That's what they're saying. And like I use the example of PTF. PTF made prices go up, but people could see the new roads and the new buses.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that for two things. Even the government has not been able to manage windfall of subsidy. People keep asking questions about where's the money, right? Where are they spending the money on? Infrastructure wise, healthcare wise, education wise, human capital, social welfare program. No, but nothing is really happening. It's just as it was even worse. So that is one part of it. So there's this disconnect between the removal of subsidy and where you are reallocating the funds to. That's one part of it, right? But the other part of it is that it makes sense. Nigeria does not have constant electricity, for example, which could have even out the cost, which is like, okay, fine, people don't need to to buy fuel to run their small business, to run their small shops, to run to work from home as a remote worker, to buy fuel, to go to places. So the logistics are expensive, transport fare are expensive and whatnot. So a lot of production metric, a lot of production factors depend on petrol consumption in Nigeria, right? So we are an oil producing state, we're a gas producing state, we don't have electricity. So that if you cut off, if you make the price of petrol go as high as possible, like now we are one of the most expensive African country with we are one of the African countries with the most expensive petrol price. The last time I checked the metric, I think we are the third most expensive. We are the third country with the most expensive petrol price in Africa as of today. So if you make petrol price goes up, indefinitely, it's going to affect the market woman. It's going to affect the guy with the little shop running his barber business. It's going to affect the person doing the frozen food business in the street, and it's going to affect everybody across board because everybody depends on it. So I don't understand the logic behind those who are saying don't do anything, leave it, let it be, let it play out. You can let it play out if the market fundamental is that okay, the price is regulated, things are stable, things are within minimal affordability. You can do that. But at the point whereby we see a light trajectory of prices going up, as a government that is thinking, and as I've seen in South Africa, I've seen in Ethiopia, I've seen in Morocco, I've seen in even Ghana. What Ghana did, Ghana had a levy on petrol. Ghana doesn't have a subsidy. They have a levy on petrol. The moment the war in Iraq broke out in March, Ghana withdrew and took back those levies and said, you know what, people can buy petrol cheaper. Uganda paid its price immediately, right? Morocco did the same thing, Ethiopia did the same thing. Some other countries removed levies, some of them, add bygone costs that cost the government in huge budget spending.
All right, sir.
Nigeria is not doing anything. Nigeria is not doing anything. That's just that. People who are making argument and say don't bring that subsidy, they are just being, propaganda.
All right. I hear you. I mean,
by this government to make it feel as though all kind of subsidy.
All right, fantastic. Cyrus, I mean, good points there. I've spent an hour, 30 minutes. We're going to wrap up now with the guys that are on point are going to speak. We're going to get Akin Femiwa, and then we'll just get everyone to speak. And then I think the points have been made, really. We've seen the pro and the cons of the argument. Should subsidy come back? Should it not come back? And where we're missing the communication gap and what's called the reality gap. Akin Femiwa, hi, how you doing? Thank you, Cyrus. Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Good evening. Am I audible enough?
Yes, sir.
All right. I saw the topic and I really joined it to make an observation concerning the either the removal of the oil subsidy or the returning back of the oil subsidy. I believe that I don't want to be sound emotional about this, but every aspect of home, especially the household, has been the eat up of this removal of oil subsidy. In the sense that if there is any stable electricity in the nation, it would have been okay. That would have been another way of helping out the businesses around that they should be able to rely on stable electricity. But in the situation whereby we have the removal of oil subsidy, the PMS, and even especially all the food, even like gasoline, the diesel, and that of the kerosene, every one of them has been removed. And there's no way, as the major energy source of the nation, there should be a way of government to intervene, relieving. Let there be. Thank God that we have a working refinery, despite it being a private refinery, yet it is a local refinery. There should be a way whereby the government should assist and come in and help. There is no nation, with reasonable leaders. Anybody should not be offended with this kind of statement, please. Yes, I will say it. Leaders that have empathy, not thinking about the even the way they said that there's economic improvement, yet we are still borrowing. So there's no need. There is no any effect of the removal of the oil subsidy. They should restore it back. The oil subsidy should be restored back, so that people should have the price of the food at an affordable price. Those people who are running the vehicle, those people who are running the transportation, those people who are running their small shops, everybody is being affected with this. Let us be sincere. Unless those people in the political class who run this thing free, they are the ones who will say they are not affected. But anybody who is not collecting this food free is affected with the removal of the oil subsidy. It's a time to restore it back, so that common Nigerians should benefit what is in their own land by themselves. Let us not put any kind of economic metric that will not improve the life of a common man out there. So let us be sincere. Everyone is affected, unless those people want to lie.
Okay.
No wonder we know the price of the food we get, the PMS we get in 3 years back.
So Akin, you are for the bring back subsidy.
I'm for the restoring of the oil subsidy.
Okay.
The price of the petroleum should be subsidized.
All right.
It's either being subsidized or regulated.
Okay.
There should be a way that we should not be having 1,002 today, tomorrow 1,003, another time 900. No, let us have it is the product is refined in our own land. We should have. This is the only thing we can benefit. There's nothing we benefit directly from the government.
Understood.
Let us be sincere.
All right, you speak for many. I can speak for many, but let's. Yeah, I completely agree. Let me get Ohams, then we'll get Amiable. Ohams and Amiable. Ohams, please go ahead.
Everyone.
How you doing?
Yeah, thank you, Carlo.
Yes.
I'm good. And thanks for all you do.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm of the opinion that we should bring back subsidy. Wow. And it's for a lot of very practical reasons. The average Nigerian should not be forced to understand high-level economics. It's not in every country that people have to understand all these high-level economics for them to understand what the government is doing. To start with, why did we have subsidy in the first place? Our refinery stopped working, right? And then they said, okay, it is our fault that our refineries are not working. That's why the price of the cities are going to access what's it called, fuel at higher cost. So we are going to start paying them subsidy while we fix the refineries. The government has failed to fulfill that promise for several years, but the people should still pay for it. So this is where I get very, let me say pissed. I think Nigerians, we have this mentality that the poor people can keep suffering. It is okay. When solutions affect the rich, we do not want to implement them. When it affects the poor, I mean negative. When it affects the poor, we are very quick to implement them. Like, these people are not humans, and they don't deserve any sort of cushion at all. Right? There's no country in the world, civilized country or Western country, where people don't get any sort of subsidies, especially the poor. What subsidy does the poor get in Nigeria? Absolutely nothing. People get tax rebates. People get some sort of social welfare payments. In Nigeria, nothing like that happens. The only thing they get is this subsidy that is even energy. There's no country that does not subsidize energy. And then you say, oh, take it off, take it away, and you're giving them explaining high-level economics for them that they should understand why they keep suffering. This is where I'm going to learn because I don't want to hold the mic for long, right? You can solve this problem. You can increase our revenue in several ways by I mean increase funds available for government expenditure. There are several other ways, but they won't do it. And I'll give you one very simple example. We have treasury bills running at 20-something percent, 17%, 20-something percent. Why not crash that rate down? So that people that have gone to store their funds doing nothing, doing absolutely nothing, they stash cash in treasury bills, right? And the country is bleeding, paying interest on this treasury bill. Why the country is suffering? Because funds that should be in the real economy have been moved out of the real economy to make risk-free interest.
Should I answer that specific question for you? Should I answer it for you? Why they have to do it that way?
Yeah.
If you crash the rates and then you have inflation, the reason why the rates are so high is to take money out of the economy. So if you keep the rates very, very low, like you said, Nigerians will no longer give money to treasury bills. They will go and spend the money. When they spend the money, then you have inflation. That's why the rates are high.
But there's already inflation.
It will get worse.
Inflation.
Yeah, it'll get worse.
So I don't. This is what I believe, right? I believe we are not fixing the right problem. There's already inflation, and you're still saying that. I strongly believe that the issue is not that there's too much money in the economy. There's no way someone looks at Nigeria now and will agree that there's too much money in the economy. It doesn't make sense that there's too much money in circulation. There's something wrong that they're not fixing. And we need people that can actually come and fix the problem. We've been increasing monetary policy rates since as far back as 2015. It's as high as 26% right now. And you are still saying that it's inflation. So there's something wrong that's fundamentally wrong that they're not fixing. So the poor man cannot continue to pay for the wickedness or the ineptitude of the government. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't care how they're going to keep paying this subsidy, but they should bring it back. Let the poor man breathe. Right?
I understand. I completely agree. Yeah, I hear you. I'm just giving you clarity. And I think just to answer your question again, the main issue is food. I keep on going back to food because that's where the linchpin is. Because Nigerians are having expensive food. Let me give you this data start. If you want to know if a country is poor or rich, look at the proportion of how much the household spends on food. If you look at America, it's spent about 10%, about that, of the household income on food. In Nigeria, it's as high as 57%. So anything that affects the cost of food is a poverty driver. If rice goes up in price, Nigerians get poorer. In America, if rice goes up in price, they change. They can move around and buy. So we have no substitutes, and our income is tied directly to food. So to answer your question, if you really want to affect and give Nigerians an economic benefit, go to food. Go to food. Make the food cheap. If food is cheap, I assure you, many Nigerians don't even notice the PMS subsidy because transportation is about 4% or 5% of what we spend. The bulk of our spending is on food. So this just is export, but NBS publishes every time. If you can crash the price of food, you give everybody a pay hike. But again, it is what it is. Let's move on to Amiable. Thanks, Mohammed. Very passionate comment. I appreciate you. Let's go to Amiable. Amiable, how are you doing?
Hello, good evening. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
All right. Is my audio clear enough?
Mm-hmm. You're good to go.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Okay, so my contribution is going to be very brief. And because as a Nigerian, I believe that most of the issues that we are having, most of the problems that we are having in the country has to do with us, the citizens, right? Because no matter the policies that a particular government is embarking on, the citizens will always abuse it, right? I am in support of fuel subsidy removal. I am in support of fuel subsidy back on. But the issue is this: what are the ripple effects? How it's going to affect everybody? during the time of, I was fortunate enough that I've been around for a while. When I first bought my first car during a passenger regime, I bought fare at 20 naira. Now, there was first subsidy at that time. Jara Dua, there was first subsidy, Jonathan Buhari. Yet, that fuel grew from 20 naira to 180 naira, despite the fact that there was subsidy. So now, like I said, I don't really have much to say other than just to encourage or to appeal to Nigeria. This subsidy of a thing has come to stay. The article that said is going to bring it back, that was just a campaign rhetoric. Nobody, no president is ever bringing it back. Nobody, because they know it's going to mess up the economy completely.
I disagree with you. I honestly disagree with you because there has been no. We shared some figures when we started the space. Right now, the highest FARC is 3 trillion. The 2022, before FARC was removed, it was about 1 trillion. But if you adjust for inflation, that 3 trillion is about 1 trillion. And yes, what we are saying now is that the way they ran the subsidy in the past was corrupt and inefficient. If I was the president today, I would bring back subsidy for commercial bus drivers. And I explain how I'll do it. I'll use
how are you going to do it, sir?
I'll use NIN phones. So look at how I'll start. Let me give you again the number one. If you want to use your car or your bus for commercial, you go to Federal Road Safety Corps. They give you your license. They link the VIN number of that car. Link it to your NIN phone. That's number one. Number two, every month you give that VIN number and that NIN phone e-Naira allowance of say 100,000. It doesn't mean you can spend it. It's just an allowance to your NIN enabled phone. 100,000 Naira allowance. If you don't use it, it goes away. It disappears. So when you want to use it, you go to the gas station. You take your phone, you fill your tank, you use your phone and pay the gas station e-Naira. Either you pay the POS or the gas station, that's e-Naira, they fill your tank, you go away. Your NIN is pinging a cell tower. So eventually you've brought the subsidy to the pump. The cost of subsidy will crash because it is only commercial drivers that are using that bus in Nigeria with an NIN phone that you can track and tax attached to the VIN number of a car that exists. If your car is bad on the road, you can't use it because you can't use that car without the NIN. If you do it that way, you've brought back subsidy for commercial. You've reduced the cost of transportation. You can extend this even to farmers. In America, they give farmers diesel, colored diesel, different colored diesel for their tractors. You can do the exact same thing. Tell farmers, use your phone. The same way they got fertilizer, use your phone.
But I can't hear Carlo.
Oh, you guys can't hear me? I'm able to.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's exactly what we need to do, and you can bring down the cost of diesel by astronomical levels, and you can have a database that you can query every single day. It's very simple. NIN, e-Naira, VIN numbers, they are all online. What's difficult with this? We have it today. We can do it tomorrow. We can do this.
Can I ask you something, sir? We are in like 230 million Nigeria now. Can you hazard a guess how many of us has a registered NIN? By the time you say, let's force everybody to do it.
I didn't say everybody. I said if you want to use your car for commercial, you go to the road safety, register your VIN number to your license, to your NIN. If you want to do the business, go and do it. If you can't do it, you won't get the subsidies. Not by force.
Okay, so you think the same road safety guys that will do all this registration are not Nigerians?
So what's the problem now? So what's you asked me a solution. I've given you a solution. You're now saying road safety will do their work.
Okay, all right. So let me just round up. So now, for me personally, though I live abroad, but for me personally, that I've seen the dark side and the good side of subsidy when it was in effect. And now that was no longer available. Let's have it at the back of our mind that this subsidy of a thing is supposed to be progressive. Now, there was a time the pump price dropped down to around $700 during this current regime, only for it to shoot up because of the war in the Middle East, right? So, assuming there was no war, maybe by now the pump price will have been around 400 or 500. You know, that's how we build the economic stability.
Yeah,
but
but
right now we are just going front. We are going backward. Bringing back fuel subsidies, sir.
Yeah.
I know it is your job. I know you are an expert.
No, but
I think
I'm able. And this is, we're just going to end it so we can other. So I'm not arguing to bring back subsidy. I am actually not to bring back subsidy. What I'm explaining is this: today, if you want to introduce a subsidy for manufacturers, for commercial drivers, for farmers, you can. You say you are abroad. There is no country abroad that does not subsidize either farmers or manufacturers or commercial interests. None. In America, farmers get specialized diesel. It's even a different color, so that you can't even go and buy it and use it in your car. The police will look, they have a light, they will shine on the diesel. If it shows that light, they arrest you. So this is America, capitalist America. You can't run an economy and say, let the market forces drive everything. That's the point I'm making. I'm not saying bring it back. All of us should now start to use cars as if diesel is free. No, but you've got to be targeted and say, where are the growth areas in your economy? Under Akin Fumi, the former Minister of Agriculture, we sold fertilizer to farmers with cell phones. Farmers were given cell phones and they bought fertilizer at subsidized price. Why? Because food is national security. These are farmers in the rural areas. We didn't have Starlinks that time. Now we have Starlinks. We have AI. And you cannot argue that in a 2026 in Nigeria, we can't put Starlinks in every local government area and use that. We can't make that argument. So I'm not saying bring back subsidy, but I'm saying in the economy as a whole, you've got to go and subsidize the income and productive generating areas so that there will be jobs. Look at it. Did you see the last slide I shared here? Maybe we forgot. I said a slide where you saw youths breaking infrastructure to take. If you don't address and create jobs, I saw a video someone shared to me. He went to a place in a city. I don't name the city. There were like 15 girls in that city, on the video, and they were calling their names. These 15 girls are not this age, I would say above 25. Like 6 had babies. 6 had babies. All of them have left secondary school. None has a job. What do? They all stay at home. At night, they go out. They were saying it there openly. We do runs. There is no, these are not girls in a ghetto. These are girls in a normal estate. There are no jobs. Their parents don't have jobs. There's no money to go to school. So what do you want those kids to do? What should they do? So if you don't go back to the basics in the Nigerian economy, you can't have an economy where you are boasting that we have 55 billion in foreign reserves when people literally cannot eat. I go to people asking for money. People asking us, give me food. Literally, people cannot eat, and we are boasting we have 55 billion in this. Inflation is down. We are doing AI. We are doing. It doesn't matter. See, I know these numbers. This is what I do. But I'm telling you that it doesn't matter. America, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican in power, the yellow bus will be there in the morning to pick up kids to go to school. They have soup kitchens. 911 works. Whoever is in power. So why can't we have a system whereby if you are poor in this country, at least you can feed? There is not a single soup kitchen in Nigeria, not one, in the entire nation that serves food 24/7. Not one. We are building a stadium bigger than Maracana for a church. We have airports. We are building Lagos. There are more private jets in Nigeria, in that Ikeja, than maybe Florida. Maybe. And we can't know. So we can't be economists too. Everyone is just an economist. We've got to bring our head down. If they are breaking roads for iron rod, what will they do next? They will come to your house and break your house for the iron rod and take your car. And we're not interested, because today we have police protection. Won't you need police protection? It's crazy, oh. It's crazy. Conclave, how you doing? Conclave, amiable. I appreciate your comments. Really, really do. And I hear where you're coming from. But we have to have an economy that works for the people in the economy, not the people working for the economy. It doesn't work that way. We're going to round up very quick. Let's just do concave, then we'll do know your, and then we'll just call it today. Concave, how you doing? Concave real going on.
Very well, brother. Very well, Mr. Carlo. Very well.
Yeah. What's up, man?
Very well, thank you. Fuel subsidy should be, back seriously, because that is actually the engine that drives Nigerian economy. Is fuel. Everybody can say that. Actually, Tinubu did not. He didn't think it through.
Is it fuel? Is it fuel or power? Is it fuel or power? What do you think drives the economy more? Fuel or just having reliable power?
Yeah, so let me say energy. Or you can call it power. Okay. But when I say fuel, okay, or petrol, okay, I'm just using local, is exactly what get to people, no matter where you are in Nigeria. When you talk about power, there are some places in Nigeria that they do not even have electricity. Okay, they do not have electricity, but because they actually have needed fuel or petrol, okay, to drive their cars, their bike, their everything. So it's actually trickled down to the most poorest, in Nigeria. Some people do not even need electricity. There are some places you get to, they don't need it because they don't have freezer, they don't have fridge. Okay, they can do with what they have. Okay, so in this regard, there is this. We talk about what is fuel subsidy. Okay, what is fuel subsidy?
Concave, let's. I want to get to your point. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they have to bring it back. But it has to be structured in a way that it's not like what they've been doing in Nigeria, that that they've been stealing from people and then calling it subsidy. Why actually this subsidy was removed? We are told that yes, people were stealing from it, and then federal government were paying a lot of money, that they use 1,000 liters, for instance, and they pay 2,000 liters. Okay, so they can as well subsidize it, at the product level, at the let's say crude oil level. As well, we have refinery here as well, where this thing can be, they can as well bring up something like partnership, or let me call it JV, okay, joint venture with Dangote, okay, with other refineries that are coming up, okay. Nigeria can do joint venture where they give them crude, okay, at a certain rate. Let's say, for instance, about $90 something dollars per $98 per barrel. You can give it to them for $50. Okay. Yeah. Then they bring it down to Nigeria for them to buy it at a cheaper rate.
That's subsidy.
That is how fuel subsidy. Exactly, that is subsidy. Okay, like this Dangote, Nigeria can supply Dangote crude at 90 something, let's say $50. Okay.
I know, Conclave. You've made that point here, so I want you to a lot. Mm-hmm.
So with this, it will reduce the pump price. Okay, and then Nigerians will be good for it, and then you can go around, doing your businesses with. Because that is exactly the power that I know that has been cut across the whole country, that everybody is actually using.
Yeah.
Other than maybe electricity or something like that. Thank you.
Well said. There's many ways to subsidize something. So well said. Let's get our last speaker, and I'll just let Nehemiah make a final comment. Let me get know your why, and then we'll come to Nehemiah to just take us some. Know your why. Go ahead, real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Let me just say this. I want subsidy. I love subsidy, like every single Nigeria we do. But unfortunately, economy is not run on wishes or sound bites or jingles. No matter my feeling, economy is run on facts and figures.
I agree.
And the figures are there. The figures are there. That's why for the past 2 weeks, I've been asking people, if you want to fund subsidy, give me your figures. If you want an empathic government, a merciful government, a nice government, put figures to it. But that is what it will amount to at the end of the day.
What figures do you want?
Good. In 2022 and 21, NNPC was doing zero FAC remittance, zero for 8 months, 7 months. Please fact check me. Which means that the cost recovery for our first subsidy was eating every of our earnings from oil. I'll get in here. I do figures, not emotions. And that's because I'm a doctor. I'm a specialist for the past 26 years. I treat patients not on patients' feelings, on figures. Your lab test, your x-ray, and I give you the fact. Decide or not. That's why I'm applying to this one. That no matter my wish for a nice first subsidy, it will still come back to what we can afford. And yet, I'll give you just 1 year example because of time. Year 2022. Nigeria had a subsidy for oil for about 2 trillion paid by federal government, not by state.
No, by the federation. By the federation. Total federation.
Yes, total earning of federal government after the AGA have taken their share was 5.33 trillion. We spent 3 trillion on subsidy only, not health, not electricity, not road, just for subsidy. And every government earning after deduction for the other type of government payments and statutory deduction is 5.3. We spend more than nearly 60% of our earning on one item.
We've addressed that. So I'm just
want to run a country that you will not have. That was why that year budget we had a 7.3 trillion budget deficit.
Okay, I hear you. So hold up. We've addressed this issue here. We've addressed this. I don't know if you joined late. When we started up the space, we said from 2016 to 23, we spent more on PMS subsidy than health and education combined. We spent 13 trillion on subsidies, health and education combined about 12.5. So we've said it is criminal. That's the word. It is maladministration.
It's beyond that.
So we've addressed that. We've addressed that. We've addressed that. Hold up. We've addressed that. But let me take. No. Hold up. We've addressed that. Let me now take you to today. Today we got total resources of 20 trillion. Resources meaning the monies from taxation and the borrowings. And I'm quoting the federal government's figures back to you. The total resources we've got today, 20.4 trillion. Do you know how much we spent on education from 20.4 trillion? Can you hazard a guess? How much went to educate?
Is it federal? Is it federal or
federal government? No, I don't want you to go around. See, June.
No.
Hold up, sir. June. I'm giving you the answer. June 2023 to December 2025, federal government alone has earned 20.4 trillion in resources, which is taxes plus borrowings, debt, resources, 20.4. I'm asking you, do you know how much of this 20.4 trillion went towards education?
Budget federation is always ranging. We have never met a budget declaration.
This is not the budget. This is not the budget. I'm saying what they got from subsidy. I didn't call it revenues. I'm saying resources. I'm saying the total amount that the federal government got from subsidy and from borrowings is 20.4 trillion. Not revenue, not the budget. 20.4 trillion is what they got from borrowings and from subsidy removal. They call it incremental resources. I'm asking, I can give you the answer if you do you know how much went to education from this 20.4 trillion?
Can you just say it, please? Because
the answer is 223 billion. 1%.
I don't agree with you.
It's the federal government figures. It's not my numbers.
You know why, sir? You know why? Because I know as a public health physician for many years, for many decades, that when we calculate budget spending, we don't calculate
you're not listening.
The current expenses,
salary
of teachers, salary of lecturers. We don't calculate other things that are spent.
You're not
Let me give
listening.
an example.
You're not listening.
Only net fund alone is about 320 billion.
You're not listening.
Just fund alone.
You're not listening. You're not listening to me. I don't want to argue with you. These are the federal government figures. It's not my figures. Go online.
No, I'm just quoting the figure that your source is wrong. I'm just quoting that.
It's not my source, sir. Come on, man. Come on. You're online here. Don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. I'm quoting the federal government of Nigeria.
And I'm quoting the federal government source you are quoting. That's all.
All right. Sorry.
And I'm saying net fund alone is more than the figure you quoted.
Okay.
It's not my opinion, Mr. Kalu. It's outside there. It's not my opinion.
Okay.
It's not my opinion. Let me just land. I'm just telling you, I want subsidy like everybody here. But please, put figure and fund that subsidy. At the current rate of Dangote of 103 today, if you want to sell petrol at 400 naira today, you will be paying subsidy of 1.3 trillion every month. Let me give you a figure. You pay subsidy of 1.3 trillion every month, 45 billion naira every day to Dangote. Let's assume you want to buy from Dangote. Subsidy of 900 naira difference. If you want to sell at the pump at 400, 1.37 billion every month times 12. What do you get? You get 21 trillion if I use the daily consumption figure of NMDRA. NMDRA give us a figure that we consume in January this year, 60.2 million. In February, 56.9 million liter. In March, 46.7. So I just use a rough figure of 50 million to give those calculations. If I use 50 million from NMDRA figure and I calculate 900 naira subsidy to give to Dangote to sell for us at 400 naira at the tank, Nigeria will spend this year 21 trillion.
Okay, thanks for that. I appreciate you giving that.
How do you want to? How do you want to fund that? Please fund your empathy government.
Okay.
If you want government to be empathy, want a nice government. Fund it, put figures to it. We can't be running government on rhetorics.
You've made your point. I'll let you speak. I didn't interrupt you. You've made your point. So let's go back to the real data. I'm not speaking to you, sir. So I'm just giving to the folks that are listening. The figures I'm quoting are from the federal government of Nigeria. It's this week. The Minister of Finance. This is the Minister of Finance. And these figures are online. So you can go online and look it up. It's not Carlos figures. The Minister of Finance said from June 2023 till December 2025, the total, not revenue, the total resources available to the federal government was 20.4 trillion. Resources meaning tax revenues and then the fuel subsidy revenues plus borrowing. That's why it's not called it revenue, it's called it resources. 20.4 trillion. The point I'm trying to make to the gentleman that was speaking was that in the past, we have accused the past government of not spending money on health and education because when they got money from fuel subsidy, we are repeating the same thing. The amount that went to education, again, the date is important. June 2023 till December 2025, it's only 223 billion, which is 1% of the total resources available to the federal government of Nigeria. That's atrocious. That's atrocious. How can a progressive government say that they had at their disposal 20.4 trillion and only spent 223 billion for education. This is why people are saying it doesn't make any sense to retain the subsidy. Take the subsidy away. Let us have not the emphatic government. Let me at least get cheap PMS. At least let me enjoy that. Because when you give the money to the government, they don't spend it well. You cannot argue in any setting on earth that a government will get 20 trillion and spend 223 billion on education. You can't make this argument. Remember on this space, a few spaces ago, a young lady came here and I said, we can do free education to university. She said, we don't have the money. She was very eloquent. We don't have the money. She said, I'm quoting wrong figures. But she was going on and on and on. I wish she would come back here. I'll add her on the space so she can speak. Very eloquent young lady. And now we are seeing that we got 20 trillion. Where did the 20 trillion go to? 9 trillion went to pay wages, salaries. 9 trillion went to pay debt. Then 6 trillion went to infrastructure. That's where the money went to. That's where it went to. So, guys, we're going to, Nehemiah, hop in real quick and then I'll call it a day. Yeah.
Oh yes, thank you very much. I want to just quickly what I was thinking out loud. It's probably not for this page, just for future, maybe future discussion. What I was thinking of is it's possible to have some form of sensitivity analysis so that we would know if we decided to only remove subsidy, what would have been the ripple effect? If we decided to only float the naira, what would have been the ripple effect? Because all we have right now is a combination. I like to call it a double whammy. That's what's affecting us right now. It's probably why it's biting us this hard.
I don't think so.
If we had a government,
I don't think so. I don't think so. They are linked to the hip, sir. They are linked to the hip because what's going on is that if you sell naira at 500 naira and you peg it, and you remove subsidy, then there will just be the subsidy will move from PMS to dollar. It will just move because it's inefficient. It's not the real cost. If you say you're going to import PMS, but whatever you import it at is going to be at 500, what's going to happen? I'm going to import PMS and ask you to pay me my difference. If you don't do two at the same time, you don't know the real cost, which means you don't know what to subsidize. The subsidy is not the problem. It's not the problem. It's that how we did it. How we did it was to subsidize at the port. So when the goods come at the port, you subsidize, but the goods come to Nigeria and get smuggled out. So there's a leakage of revenues. If you do this pump idea where you subsidize the actual consumption inside Nigeria, then you can capture the real subsidy. It will be lower than what you have spent, and you can track it. You can track that subsidy payment to an NIN number or to a car VIN number. You can track it. If it's a company, you can say if you buy a generator, register that generator, register it. And when you put diesel in that generator, register it. This is AI. You can load the hours that generator has run on that diesel. You can load it and you can see that information on a dashboard. It will break it down and you can know, okay, in the Ikeja industrial area, we used 500,000 liters of diesel for 1 week. This was the cost. This is what they produce. This is the subsidy we are paying them. You bring down the cost of doing business. In the past, this is a huge calculation. Now with AI, you can do it for in 5 minutes. So we are being lazy and we're allowing difficult things to stop us from achieving the aim. What's the aim of government? To give a citizens a better life. That's the aim of government. To give citizens a better life. If citizens are saying that they are suffering because fuel price is up, you listen. Again, let me give you my view. All this argument I'm making, I do not believe subsidy should come back. This is me personally. I don't believe it should come back because I know the numbers. But I can't go and argue to people and say, that food you are paying that is expensive, just keep paying expensive food. Subsidy is doing well. You can't make that argument. A leader leads because he listens. Then you lead. So the president should literally come and say, okay, we know that the macroeconomic is good and is going good, and that what we are doing has been adjudged by the IMF, by the World Bank. Any economist you ask about Nigeria's macroeconomy will tell you Nigeria is doing well. The Central Bank of Nigeria was voted as the best performing central bank in the world. Go and Google it. I think it was last year. Go and Google it. Why? Because of the macroeconomic reforms. So we're getting that right. The problem is that you can't eat macroeconomy. You've got to translate that stability into what people do on their day-to-day lives. And this brings us back, and I'm going to close this space on the last chart that I shared. Go back to that last space, the last image I shared of youths breaking infrastructure so they can eat. Whatever you argue here, whatever figure you drop and you say fuel subsidy was 1 trillion 10 years ago, today it is 500 trillion, inflation was, whatever macro you want to bring up, the reality is this picture in Nigeria today. This is a picture of Nigeria. This is a pungent picture that the youths are breaking infrastructure so they can eat. The same infrastructure that was built to give them jobs, to make their lives better, they are breaking it so they can eat. This is reverse Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. Now they have cake, but they want bread because you haven't given them the bread or the cake. That's what's happening. If you don't fix this, that coastal road, I'm not giving you it's not a cause. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not saying people are going to literally go and take sledgehammer and break the bridge. I'm talking allegorically. If you don't fix and create jobs for the Nigerian youth, if you don't give them a vision of tomorrow, that tomorrow for them is going to be better than today, they will take sledgehammers and break up the infrastructure and eat it because you haven't given them a future. These are red flashes. You see all these boys here that are breaking this culvert to get ironwood. You think they will hesitate for a minute to go and break a house if there's food in that house? You saw what happened during COVID when people went to warehouses. We are sitting on a time bomb and we're using big English, GDP, inflation, subsidy that mean absolutely nothing if people cannot eat. Again, if people cannot eat, macroeconomics does not mean anything. The French Revolution did not happen because they had the nobility. The Queen told them, I'm not sure she even said it, let them eat cake. Right now, that's what the government is telling people. Go and eat rice. We don't have gari, go and eat rice. Let's step back. Thanks, guys, for hanging out here. We can be here for as long as we want, but I think the point of my space is to give you information with data. So when we go back to our spaces, we have this information, we have the data. I try to put on my slides where I'm getting my sourcing from. It's not my numbers, it's not my information. You can see where my sourcing is from. So that way, when you are debating people, you can say, these are the numbers. This is the outcomes. So it's a fact-based discussion. And as a people in Nigeria, we've got to think of the future. If you are collecting money today from politicians, your kids might tomorrow be breaking culvert for iron rod. You've got to be really think about tomorrow. On that note, guys, let me thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I hope you guys will be here when we come back next week. I appreciate you guys. Same time, 7 p.m. West African time. You guys be here. Take care of yourselves, and bye.